Welcome back to Point Blank. We're on the issue of whether Singaporeans are gracious or graceless. First up, let's look at some web comments. Already, viewers are keeping the comments rolling in. Jawbreaker says, on the issue of, on the topic of what Kim did, a story on dirty cinemas and inconsiderate cinema patrons, maybe the cinema operator needs to run an ad before the movie that says, please do not throw popcorn in the cinema, like the please switch off your handphones one. But if you don't find Singaporeans, they just never learn to stop their antisocial behaviour. That's why they say Singapore is a fine city.
Yeah, and Aquarius said, that's not a word. The unconscious behaviour of some Singaporeans is really embarrassing. Expecting a food court auntie to clean up after you is really despicable. Imagine if one of them was your mother. How would you like that? I know it's their job, but there's no reason to make it harder for them by being a mess, right?
That's a really good point.
Yeah. True. Like, what if your mom was a cleaner?
Yeah, I mean, really bad. These aunties are somebody's moms, somebody's grandmothers, or somebody's sister, or somebody's daughter. You know what I mean?
They're people. Exactly. Yeah. I think we would all, learn to treat people better if we could just imagine being in their shoes, or someone we love being in their shoes. Then maybe we learn to look at them differently.
That's right. Maybe everybody should spend like a day in the life of a kopitiam auntie.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what Razor TV did actually. Yeah. We went down, to a food court because, we know that food court is a place where people's emotions are running high because food is really important.
Hungry,
you're hungry, you head down to the food court, you try to get a seat. What happens is either choked by tissue paper packets or, it's just downright sloppy, dirty, things are all over the place. So, Shi Ting, one of our reporters, headed down to one of the food courts here and spies with her little eye. Yep, she used the spy cat and reveals what Singaporeans do during lunchtime crunch hour.
Hi, I'm Shi Ting for Razor's Spy Cam, where I assess our Singaporeans' behaviour on the streets. Now, it is very convenient for all of us to leave our plates and utensils and tissue papers and remains of the bak kut teh after our meal. Razor Spy Cam will find out why is it so difficult for us to clear up after eating. The team checked out Jurong Point for food court attack number 1. Uncle and Auntie are having a nice lunch of prawn noodles. Oh, they are leaving, but they left a big mess behind them. Can I ask you a question? 可以问你一个问题吗？一个问题也很快。And no prize for guessing who has to clear up at the end. Wow, that's serious curry business. Let's see if they bother to clear up after the delicious meal. Uncle, 我可以跟你聊天吗？我想问你啊，刚才你不是把那个骨头放在桌子上面，有没有想过要把它清理掉先，然后才离开？
不要问我了。
Uncle. The definition of kids is big time messiness. But luckily, Mommy is there to clear up the mess. Or not. 有没有想过清理那些骨头后才离开？一个问题。那会常有这种情况，就是把整个桌子弄到乱七八糟吗？
这个食堂一定有的。有时候那些酱油什么做的都是新加坡人还是有些比较好，有些比较不好啊。
好的是怎么样？
好的，他好像会帮你弄这些他会弄好一盘在那边
那不好的呢？
不好的，他不高兴的时候，他就会去投诉。我们慢了一步来说他们会去投诉的。
Okay, I realized that you return your bowls, to the tray station after, actually before you have your meal, right? Yeah, why do you bother to do that?
Just helping them, because they are quite pitiful to me.
So, do you think Singaporeans do that in general?
Not really. Now most of the food court there's a lot of cleaners around, so they might just leave it on the table and leave.
So do you think Singaporeans should start to clear up themselves?
I don't know.
Now let's go to IKEA food court for attack number 2. Let's hope we get lucky with this family. I noticed that there's a mess on the table after you finish your meal. May I know if you think it's necessary to clean up after you've had your meal?
Or it depends on which place we are in. Okay, if let's say we are in a public place, that normally they provide cleaners like this, I think it's okay. Okay, but if let's say we are in an environment that if they are told that we have to clean up the place, definitely we will.
So did you notice that there's this signage that say you should clean up the table after?
No, I don't. Actually, I didn't see the signage.
But if you have seen the signage, you
Yes,
have.
definitely.
Oh dear, more children. And that means mess, mess, mess. Can you give me a minute? May I know why did No? Okay, thanks. Now, let's hear what the considerate people has to say. Why do you bother to return the tray after you're done with your food?
It's just a responsibility that they're always done, even when I go to McDonald's or anything like that.
Okay, what about the hawker centers?
Hawkers, well, they don't really have a place for it because they're all over the place. Like you see, even though when this kind of trays, they already have tray first to put it back in. Like you see in hawkers, you don't really see that.
But do you notice that a lot of Singaporeans don't bother to return their trays? What do you think?
Well, it's just how we are brought up, that's how we think.
In conclusion, Razor Spycam has had a long day of many rejected interviews by usually messy people. And people who bother to return the trays or clean up the mess are few and far between.
Not surprising that the people who were filmed didn't really want to talk.
I wouldn't want to be interviewed.
I wouldn't want to be interviewed.
They're caught red-handed and you still want to want me to comment.
Don't show
Oh yeah,
me.
you should see the time when I reviewed myself and asked why you never return your tray. Wow, like deer in headlights expression.
Really, they look so shocked. Like,
and then
am I supposed to bolt or am I supposed
no.
to?
Oh, they bolted.
Oh, they bolted.
Yeah, bolted.
Wow, ran
That's
for
like
their
cowardly,
lives.
man.
Yeah.
But okay, so did you manage to ask some people why they don't return their
Yeah,
trays,
people who
or why
replied,
they
yeah.
leave such a mess and not leave it, on the trays properly so that people when they clear they can just take all the utensils away?
Right. I mean, I wondered the same thing to myself when I saw it. But for a lot of people, I feel they just think that, well, I'm at a food court. I'm paying a higher price for the food as opposed to going to a coffee shop. So this should be all part of a service, so to speak. A lot of them seem to have that kind of impression, which was a little bit. Okay. I can see where you're coming from a very economic point of view because Singaporeans are quite
money-minded.
inclined that way. And of course, like we were talking about earlier, some of my friends, when you clear trays, they'd be like, no, don't put the auntie out of a job. If not, she'll have no job. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the other thing, that it's okay. It's a question of whether Singaporeans know how to clean up after themselves, or since there is such a service there, why should they be cleaning up after themselves when there is such a service there?
Yeah.
You see, it defeats the purpose of like you say, putting the auntie out of a job.
But I think it's more of an abuse of a service. I mean, you've got aunties with the cloths and the spray, they can come and wipe the table clean for you, but it's more of your responsibility to put away your dirty dishes, at least clear your debris.
Exactly.
I mean, they can come and wipe the table for you, they still have a job.
Exactly. I mean, you don't have to leave the mess like what we
Precisely.
saw
All the
earlier.
prawn heads,
all
the
over
bones,
the place. I mean, you could just put it on a tray and
Or put
make
it
easier for them.
in your bowl, at least so you can clear it.
Yeah.
Well, one of our viewers have a comment on that. Jawbreaker says, a lot of these food court cleaners are quite old as well and have to work because they can't afford not to. Well, it would be nice if these people who earn better than them to be a bit more thoughtful. And for Mars Bar, he says, don't you think you're doing the aunties a favor by giving them a job to do, by leaving a mess for them? Sure, they have a role, but being a slob doesn't mean you are doing them a favor by keeping them employed. It just means you are a slob. Okay, I think there are quite a few. I think there are quite a few issues here, isn't it? Okay, one is that keeping them employed. I believe job creation is not a wrong thing. For one, okay, it's fine to give the aunties a job. It is giving them. It keeps their minds nimble and their bodies.
Get them something to do.
Right.
They get
It
extra
is.
income. Yeah.
The second thing, and that is the problem, is how people treat these service people, and how, like we've seen in our food court attack, how much of a mess they leave behind. It's fine, I think, if people leave things in their trays and keep things clean and easy to clean up.
Yeah.
But if it's such a slob and prawn shells like bakute bones,
At least put it in one area so it's a lot easier to clear. I mean, why would you go out your way to be troublesome?
Right, exactly. I think we just have to think of it as there's no reason for you to be a slob about it. I mean, these people are just trying to earn a decent living, Like one of the cleaners I follow around, she's not very old. She's late 40s, and she's doing this to support her son because her husband left her, and she has to work to support her son, and this is a job that she has to do. So there's no reason we should make things more difficult for her than it already is.
Yeah, I believe that there are considerate Singaporeans around, but there are just some black sheep who don't treat service people like they're supposed to, decently. Well, we've been to the food court just now. It's time to now hit the hawker centres. Well, Razor TV quizzes people on what they make of fellow Singaporeans. Gracious or graceless? Let's find out.
What do you think of Singaporeans who don't clean up their table, clean up their dishes after their meal?
Well, I find them very inconsiderate because, first of all, they bought their food, and hence once they've eaten up, they have the responsibility to clear it.
I mean, not everybody will clean up after them.
But it's going to make the work of the cleaners very difficult.
It's like when you go to those fast food restaurants, there are even people playing with ketchup or what. So, I mean, there are different kind of people all around.
So you think it's okay that we leave it there?
I'm not saying that it's okay, but I mean, you can't get them to clean if they don't want to. Yeah, I mean, unless there's a law.
When there's people clearing up, people take for granted that they will do the whole job. That is, they will do the clearing up for them.
Why do you think they don't bother to clean up?
Well, Singaporeans are like bo chap.
It's also because there is no such rules in place. I believe if there is rules and there is enough facilities around, people will do it. I don't think Singapore is that bad.
They are afraid to lose their face. I mean, imagine you're having a lunch break and you're dressed in all the suit and tie and all. I mean, you won't really look nice if you clean your own plate. People will start to laugh at you. Hence the
NSF went to army and they were taught how to clear their own plates. But when they are out, when they're not wearing the uniform, they forgot all about it.
In school and in camp, right, even though it's not like a law, but then the thing is like, it's kind of the culture there. So it's like everybody will clean up after them. So if you don't clean, then you appear to be the alien one. Yeah, so unless everybody is doing the same in outside. If not, I guess not everybody will do it.
So you don't think we should have cleaners?
In a way, no, because the cleaners are old. Like what he said is old aunties. We have to hire them to clean for us. Why not we just do it on our own? Isn't it better?
I don't think people will do it, even if you do away with cleaner. Yeah, because they will just leave it there. Yeah, you see, most of the time they will just, if they need a table, they will just push the thing to one side, then they sit at the cleaner side. Yeah, that's what they will be doing. So I don't think it's going to help. And you will just appear that it's like, this hawker center is very dirty if you got no cleaner.
I'm not so sure about that because we haven't really had a case where, right now the norm is we have cleaners. So we can't really tell until we really don't have cleaners.
Maybe if we have a cleaner strike, we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. The thing is that, and I don't agree with what one of them said about, if there's a law, if there's a rule, then we'll follow it.
Yeah, it's just like Singaporeans are cattle, we've got no brain to think for ourselves, so we have to do this.
I'm sure we have brains. It's just that there are some of them who feel that, that you need to have rules on the No.
We need to have laws, rules, fines, before we can do something.
I think it's a question of culture. And we wonder why have Singaporeans seem to have earned the reputation of being kiasu, being ungracious, and so on. It's just a reputation, mind you. Well, to help us get a handle on it, Razor TV spoke to NUS sociologist Professor Chua Beng Huat.
Well, Professor Chua thinks that people should stop thinking of Singaporeans in this way. In fact, he said the only reason he agreed to do the interview was just so he could make it known. For the record, Singaporeans are not graceless.
Okay, Professor Chua, it seems like it's a norm for Singaporeans to leave their plates lying around after their meals. What do you think is the reason?
I don't think it's a norm. I think that, people's behaviors are contextually determined. So, for example, at the university, everybody removes their trays and everybody removes their plates when they finish at the canteen, when they finish their food. So it's because nobody else will clean up after them. So they know to voluntarily do that. I think it's a situation in which the Singaporean customers do not gets very mixed messages whether they should do it themselves or whether someone will clear after them. So as a consequence, they actually, sometimes don't know what to do, so they just leave it. I think if you want people to remove their trays and their plates, you just don't provide the cleaners. Sometimes when you're sitting at a hawker center or at a food court, before you even, finish your food but you haven't finished your drink, the cleaner's already there to take it up for you. So you don't have to do it. Very often you see people sit down, even if it's a clean table, they take out tissue paper and wipe the table, wipe the chairs for themselves. Why shouldn't they do it for themselves? I believe they will do it for themselves if no help is provided.
Do you think Singaporeans are inconsiderate?
No, I don't think so. I think Singaporeans are like everybody else in the rest of the world. I don't think we are any more uniquely inconsiderate or more polite. I think, contextually it brings up people's behavior.
Oh, well, uniquely Singapore?
Yeah, or uniquely inconsiderate.
But that's a really good point, meaning, we can't tell until there is like a cleaner's track or something where, it's confusing for people because we have cleaners, so why are we cleaning up our trays and food utensils or not if there are already cleaners who are doing it? I mean, it's part of the service. I think the question is more of what kind of mess you leave behind, right?
I think so too. I mean, I guess when push comes to shove, you will actually do it if you have to, maybe just right now we take it for granted because there's people to do it for us.
Okay, yeah.
So that's right. I think it's a matter of culture, really. Yeah. It's a matter of culture, and people don't have to, we don't have to be bound or whipped into shape by laws, by rules, by fines.
I think it's just some Singaporeans who don't really take the initiative to do it, which is like tarring everybody else, I mean, like, a lot of us would clear or at least make it neater, but just the ugly ones throw a bad light onto everybody.
And this brings to mind a point that Professor Chua had, that we are not any worse off than any other people in other countries.
Very true.
Yeah, like I said earlier on in the show, that Singaporeans, our black sheep are not any blacker than overseas.
Precisely.
Yeah. It's just that I've been to overseas food courts before, like in the Western countries, in Australia and all that. They do have a culture of clearing up their own stuff in their own trays.
Yeah, but it's been inducted in them since young, and like they do it in fast food places, and all that, like McDonald's.
And because they do not have cleaners.
Exactly, and I think it applies in all other aspects of their life overseas. They don't depend so much. They don't get service so quickly the way we do.
Yeah, like, they do take it upon themselves. They have more responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing is that we have a culture right now where people do clean up stuff for us, and they are their service staff and all that. And I think Singaporeans what we can do better is to not leave so much of a mess for them, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, at least pile it back into your bowl if you don't want to clear it, or put it in tissue, so that the auntie doesn't have to go and pick up all the bones and everything.
Yeah, and I think, I would kind of agree with Professor Chua in the sense that, don't give Singaporeans a hard time. We have heard so much about, criticisms of Singaporeans being kiasu, this and that and all that.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily worse, it's just that some have had better coverage, like we're covering this right now. So, Well, we've already sussed out ground zero at food courts early on this show, and we have some pretty strange behaviour
definitely
on the part of customers.
So now we'll swing behind the scenes and we'll look at a pair of hands that clean up after Singaporeans. Presenting the food court assos, the aunties armed with the trolleys and the cleaning cloths.
That's right.
新加坡人买东西吃，然后他们吃饱了他们就走，他们没有收拾碗盘。你觉得？
这是我们自己这边，这个是我们的工作，我们要做，给他搞好。这个公司咖啡店公司搞好。
你觉得我们应该自己收碗盘吗？这样你们不会这样辛苦。
不要，我们自己做，我们的工作应该做的啊。他们老板啊，跟我们工钱的，我们要好好的去做。
然后买水喝，他们有没有把那个杯跟碗拿回去那个摊？
没有了，都是我们自己丢的。有些还在外面带水来这边喝，后来还丢在那边，我们帮他收啊，没有办法，为了做生意没办法，又不可得罪他。 分手认为说，我来这边花钱，我是应该这样做，你们是应该对我舒适。有些好的说，哎呀，这么肮脏，对不起，所以很难讲的啦，什么样的人都有。
那你会希望以后是每个人自己拿盘回去的吗？
希望是这样，希望我们舒服一点不用做的要命对不对？而且我们的工作比较轻松一点，我们有时间去招待别的顾客，这样嘛。
即使他们拿回来，我们也是跟他讲说不用拿回来，会有人收的这边。
就是到目前为止没有一个人。
偶尔会有啦，就是说没有啦，不是完全没有，偶尔会有人收回来，不完全没有啦。
就说如果顾客自己拿回来，会不会让你的工作更方便？
应该是会的，照理说应该是会的。就是到目前应该是会的，因为等到他们去收又不一样了。没有啦，一个工人他们忙起来，他们有时候会收比较慢的，他们讲有时候我们去催啦这样子啦。不要讲那个。去催他们拿回来。
Well, that's the thing. That's my point exactly. It's not a matter of rules and all that, but it's a matter of culture.
Yeah.
You just mentioned, right, in school?
Yeah, like in secondary school and all that, you have bins, right? And then you say, oh, store 1 goes to this bin, store 2 goes to that bin. And you actually do it, you put it away. But when you go outside, you tend not to. Why?
Yeah, I think some people would... Okay, I believe there are 2 schools of thought. One would say, because you have discipline in schools, you get demerit points if you don't.
If you don't,
you didn't clean up, 3 demerit points.
And the second thing is, on a larger whole, it's culture. As in, it's a norm to put your stuff back. Otherwise, people look at you funny.
Yeah.
And if you bring this larger culture to the rest of Singapore, if people look at each other funny and think that it's a norm to, be clean, be neat, be respectable to service staff, then that will be the norm.
Right.
I guess.
The funny thing is, though, I put my plates back, like when I go to McDonald's and whatever, I put it back at the tray turn. And when I clear my table, people actually turn and stare at me like, what are you doing? There's someone there.
Good, let them stare because, probably
I'm doing the right thing.
We're doing the aunties a favor. I mean, back in NUS, if we didn't clear our trays, the auntie will actually stand at your table and she'll shout at you as you walk away. I saw it happen to 3 exchange kids.
Garang auntie.
Yeah, very garang. Then she shouted at them across.
Oh, like what, kids from where?
They look what, maybe Americans, British? They had blonde hair. Yeah, I'm not sure, but they were walking away because maybe it's not in their culture. They thought that,
really?
I mean, I'm not sure, but because maybe they thought they could just leave it.
But I was reading your article, right? And I was in the article that you mentioned that Angmos also, like Caucasians and all that, when they come here, they get inducted into our culture and then they don't clear their trays.
I was wondering, maybe these kids had been to the food courts and they thought it's okay,
maybe.
So they didn't realize it, so they walked away and then got scolded by the auntie.
That's the thing. And then back to the point that it's slightly confusing where the line is drawn.
Yeah.
Should you clear your own plates or not? Because these people are kind of paid for that service, right?
Exactly.
And that's their job scope, if I were to put it that way. And then there are those people who say, just because, you can't just throw money at people's faces just because you pay them, that doesn't mean that they deserve to be treated like dirt rats.
I think they deserve more respect. I mean, they're still human.
It's a point. So I guess... it's job creation that people are service staff. They clean up after us in food courts and whatnot. But I think it helps if, we were talking about two-way streets, that we as the recipients of such a good service, we should be able to, respond in kind.
Yeah, definitely.
True. Keep our soiled utensils clean, our trays clean and all that, Yeah, so, Kimberly, any last words from you before we go?
Well,
on Gracious Singapore?
Well, I'm no expert, but I think that if you're nice to others, they'll be nice to you too. And that way, everyone's happy, right?
Definitely.
Two-way street.
Two-way street, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's right. So before we leave you, here's a razorism for the day. If a man be gracious and courteous to strangers, it shows he is a citizen of the world, and that his heart is no island cut off from other lands, but a continent that joins to them. And that was a quote by Francis Bacon Sr.
Well, thank you, Kimberly, for joining us today.
That's right, thank you. And thank you for joining us tonight as well. We enjoyed being point blank with you.
And don't go away, because news is up next with Razor's Top 5.
That's right, see you tomorrow. With that, we graciously leave you.
Definitely.